this morning when I stepped out, there was a pool of 20 gooselings, and it's like they had a parents meeting today. There are 4 geese families. So yeah, okay. So we were discussing about something the previous week, mindfulness, knowledge, and today I'm going to add another word called concepts. Concepts, right? Concepts are closely related to knowledge and information, but it has been given a specific emphasis on in Buddhism. It's called kalpana or vichara or even sankalpa in the Pali and Sanskrit language. So Pali and Sanskrit languages are the ones which are used in Buddhism. So talking about knowledge again, knowledge is like a nuclear reaction, right? You know the nuclear reaction. Einstein found it, Heisenberg developed it, and if a nuclear reaction is uncontrollable, it's bad. It's detrimental to many. It emits bad radiation, etc., etc. And if someone knows how to use it, you can make steam, you can make electricity, you can make it to your advantage. So the same goes with knowledge. If you know how to use it, it will be a very good thing. But if you don't know how to use it, it will be a really bad thing. Now, what I mean by that is when people don't know how to use the knowledge from their past, the incidents, the activities, basically the memories that they have as knowledge from the past. If you don't know how to manage that, if you have no idea how to manage that, it leads you to being depressed. If you don't know how to manage the knowledge from the past, if you don't know how to manage the knowledge from the future or the about future, that's called panic attacks or anxiety disorder, right? So the same like a nuclear reaction. If you don't know how to use the nuclear reaction, it's going to be detrimental. But if you know, it's going to be very smooth, it's going to be very clear, and you're going to make a lot of use out of it. So that's how the knowledge works. But then what's the Buddhist approach about knowledge, right? The Buddhist approach of how do we approach knowledge. Now, answering that, in the West especially, a lot of people think mindfulness is Buddhism. Now, mindfulness is a tool that we have as Buddhist monks, Buddhist practitioners. Mindfulness is not equivalent to Buddhism. It's only a tool. It's a tool that anyone can use, and there's a reason that we use that tool. And in order to properly explain how we use this tool, let me take a story from the Pali Canon. Now, the Pali Canon has a lot of stories. Some of these stories are very animated, and when you listen to some stories, you get overwhelmed and you get derailed, go in a different tangent. Because in some of these stories, the animals are talking, so the people are understanding animals. It's very, it's like Narnia and all the kid stories that we watch sometimes. Very it doesn't look real. We need to understand that these stories are meant for a different purpose, and some of them are overly animated. And if we are fixated on that part, we are going to miss the direction that the story is pointing to you. So we need to understand that first, because some of these stories, they are cryptic, very cryptic, right? And they are usually, you would say, this is a mythological story. How can the animals be talking, right? So the fundamental way to decode or decipher these stories is that we should get the idea or the direction, but don't get fixated on the content or the container rather. There's a thing when someone shows a moon or a sun, you can look at the direction or you can look at the finger. And if you are fixated on the finger, you are going to miss the direction. So the same thing goes with these stories. So I had to indemnify about these stories. So let me take a story where the animals are talking, right? So one day, there was this rabbit who was sleeping, and the cardinal is back. There was a rabbit who was sleeping, and all of a sudden he hears a bang. He hears a large noise, and then he thought, well, this is it. The world is going to come to an end, and I'm going to run for my life. So he started running. I don't know if you have heard this story before. So then the rabbit is running like crazy, and there was another rabbit friend. He asked, why are you running? He said, I don't have time to chit chat. The world is coming to an end. Let's run, right? So they joined the race. And then they met a set of deers. Deers asked, why are you running? We really do not have time to chat. Let's run. The world is coming to an end. The deers they are usually very scary animals, right? They look very timid and scared all the time. So the deers are also now running. So the story went on. The geese and the moose and elephants, tigers, everyone is running. Now everyone is running afraid of their lives. They are so afraid, and they were just running in the direction the rabbit is running. Now there is this king of the jungle, the lion. Lion is supposed to be wise and the king for some reason. So he's watching over from his vantage point, and he sees that all these animals are going towards a cliff, and they are going to fall down that cliff, and they are going to die. So the king, he comes out, the lion comes out, and then he makes a big roar and says, why are you guys running? Then everyone says, well, we don't have time to chat. World is coming to an end, that's why we are running. Then he used his veto power because he's the king, right? He said, stop, and asked the elephant, who told the world is coming to an end? Elephant told it was the giraffe. Giraffe told it was the moose. Moose told the deer. You know how it goes. So he finally managed to figure out the original rabbit who said the world is coming to an end, and that's why I'm running. And then lion took the rabbit and went to the incident where the incident occurred. I'm making the story really short, right? So he went to the place where incident occurred. It happened to be a tall palm tree, a coconut, let's say a coconut. Coconut came down, and the coconut leaves, when they are dry, they make a big bang noise. So it was one of that. Now that gives a fundamental idea of what Buddhist approach about knowledge. This is what people usually do, right? Someone says the world is coming to an end and we are running. Someone says yoga is good and we are doing yoga. Someone says meditation is good, we are doing that, right? Good and bad both, right? We don't stop and inquire. Right? So the approach in Buddhism is that we don't deny, we don't accept, we inquire, right? And in order to inquire, we have this tool called mindfulness. Let me get to what mindfulness later in this story. But then in the same Pali canon I'm referring to, there's another beautiful discussion Buddha had with a set of ascetics and people called people from the Kalama village. Now what they asked was, see Buddha, there are so many wise sages who passes through our lives. They say that this is the right thing, and this is what you should believe. This is the truth in the world, this is the good in the world, this is the bad in the world, this is the truth in the world, this is the false in the world. So many are saying different things. What should we believe? And then the answer was that, well, a lot of people are going to say a lot of things. You should never deny them, but you should accept them also completely. You should inquire. If they are mentioning a practice, do the practice, but don't completely accept it, don't completely deny it, do it, right? Now, Kalama Sutta says that when people come across different information, concepts, knowledge, they form opinions, they form beliefs, right? And most of the beliefs that we have as adults now are based on where we were brought up, where we were raised, where we were born, right? What is right in the world, what is wrong in the world, what is the truth, what is the ultimate truth, or what is the wrong thing in the world. It's almost like a geographical accident. Geographical accident. You were born to some place, and according to that right and wrong, you are thinking and you are looking at the world, right? So if you're born in Asia, you have one right or wrong. I was telling the word for thank you in my language. If you're born in Arab, if you're born in the Western Hemisphere, so if you are born in Scandinavia, where the Vikings were, based on where you're born, you have a different interpretation of what's right and wrong, what's truth and what's false. So the fundamental is that because it's the nature, we are going to relieve ourselves, we are going to release from that cultural attachment for a temporary period of time, not forever. We can't completely get rid of that, but we are going to identify that I am thinking this way because I was brought up in this culture, and because of that I'm going to keep it away. So that's the first thing that Kalama people heard. And then the second thing is that a lot of beliefs that we have formed, a lot of true knowledge that we think which is true, is based on rumor and hearsay. We are no different to that little rabbit who started running and all the other guys who started following him. There's a lot of truth that we think is true because we have never inquired that. It's based on hearsay. Someone has recommended. Look at all the music preferences you have. It's not your preference really. Someone has referred it to you. It's peer recommendation. In Google, whenever you want to go to a restaurant, you don't go to the restaurant you want. You go to the restaurant that Google suggests you, or TripAdvisor, or whatever the algorithm suggests you. If you open the YouTube homepage, all the stuff that you usually listen to, it's YouTube suggesting you, right? So without trying to go by the rumor or hearsay, let's try to inquire now. And the third thing is, this Buddha became really unfavorite for saying this. Buddha said, don't believe in your scripture also. People got really furious. Clergymen, they get mad when they say, don't refer to your holy book. People create books, right? And when people print books, there's going to be printing errors. Forget who wrote the book, but eventually down the line, there's going to be some errors. There's going to be interpretation errors. And if you take that as the ultimate truth in the world, you might make a mistake. Again, we are not denying, we are not accepting, we are inquiring. Okay, so that again made Buddha really unfamous, or people didn't like when you criticize a religion, especially a scripture, especially a holy book. In any culture, criticizing a holy book is deemed bad, blasphemy, and you get stoned for that. Well, and in Canada we have a lot more rights to talk about these things, but in most part of the world, it's deemed really bad. And even if it's not physically enforced, a lot of people get mentally enforced, because talking bad about this book will make you go to hell or will give you bad karma, right? So don't talk bad about the book, right? So scripture is also not a right way according to Buddhism. You can have a beautiful printed, wonderful sacred scripture, a canon. So I like Buddhism because this canon says, don't believe this canon itself. Within the book itself, it says, don't believe the canon. That's why I like Buddhism. And the next thing is that we get into logical, inferential conclusions. Buddha says, don't completely resort into concluding based on logic also. Again, we were discussing about inferential logic or logical inferencing. A plus B is equal to B plus A. Do you agree? 2 plus 3 is equal to 3 plus 2. Is that right? It's a fundamental axiom in mathematics. A plus B is equal to B plus A. Okay? Basically, 1 plus 2 is equal to 2 plus 1. Right? But I can prove that it's wrong. There are so many logical fallacies, right? So one of the fallacies that let's call the bottom of Reverend Ananda A, the top B. A plus B is Reverend Ananda. B plus A is not me, it's something else. So there's a logical fallacy where someone could say you're not doing it right. Then I'll tell another logic. 1 plus 1 should be 2. Do you think 1 plus 1 should be otherwise? Not in literature, but in mathematics and science, it's usually 1. But let's take a drop of water and add another drop of water. 1 plus 1 is not 2, it's 1 again, right? Again, you could say, well, it's wrong. If you take the volumetric addition, it's going to be 2. Sure, we can do that, but what I'm trying to say is that if we take logic is also based on certain things called axioms. Logic is not pure. When I was studying mathematics, I thought mathematics is the most purest thing in the world. But then I found I have to make a lot of assumptions to do maths. For example, for 1 plus 1 to be 2, you really need to believe that plus sign is going to add things. If you don't believe it like a holy belief, you can't do that mathematics, right? So logic can be flawed. There are fallacies in logic, and axioms can be flawed. So logical conclusion is also not a part of Buddhist knowledge system. And the other one is credible people telling things. There are credible people. Like even back in the day when I was a surfer dude, no one listened to me. Now that I wear a robe, people listen to me. It's the same person telling the same thing, right? So when you look credible, people start listening to you, right? Buddha says, well, just because people look credible, we are not going to listen to them. We are not going to deny, we are not going to accept, but we are going to inquire. Okay, inquiry. So that's the fundamental message here. We are going to inquire. It's like a scientist. Science is based on empiricism. You put it into an experiment, and then you do that experiment. So this experiment in Buddhism is called Arya Paryeshana. Arya Paryeshana, a noble experiment, right? And again, to do that noble experiment, we need to master this thing called the mindfulness. Okay, so that's what I want to share about knowledge today. So what we are going to do now is that we are going to temporarily relieve ourselves from all this knowledge which makes you bound. We have different things, that this is the way you should sit, this is the way you should stand, this is the way I should speak. Anyway, you're not going to do anything during the meditation, so mentally you are going to be relieved of all these boundaries, and we are not going to give importance to all that knowledge that we usually use, right? Again, I'm not telling that knowledge is unuseful. Knowledge has a lot of uses, but we need to understand how to use it properly. We are using a nuclear reactor without reading the manual, without knowing the modus operandi, and let's try to learn it, right? So now let's get back to our meditation, and next week I'll talk why do we crave for this knowledge? Why do we need to know things, right? We need answers. And why do we need answers?